Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Great Conversations. And this episode today is going to be about events in the WordPress ecosystem and whether the formats that we have today are still working for us. And for this episode, I'm very excited to welcome Carole Olinger, head of CloudFest Hackathon and WordPress Business and Agency Summit, Raquel Mariquez, creator and executive producer of PressConf, and our CEO, Mark, who has not only attended and sponsored events, but has recently also been assigned as an advisory board member for CloudFest Americas. Welcome to the three of you.
Thanks.
It's very great to have you here. Maybe before we start, Raquel and Carole, there might be a few people listening who have not yet had the chance to visit PressConf and or CloudFest Agency Summit in person. So please, would you share a little bit about what those events are about and who they're for? Who wants to go first?
Carole, please.
Sorry. Okay, I can go first. Yeah, I'm actually one of the people who haven't been to PressConf yet, and I definitely want to change that. So, but what am I doing? So I am working with CloudFest for, I think, 8 or 9 years now. So I'm the head of CloudFest Hackathon, but also the very new WordPress Business and Agency Summit that we initiated this year for the 2026 edition. And I love working and collaborating with CloudFest and attending it because to me it has been opening and broadening my horizon in terms of what conferences can be. Coming more from the WordPress side of things and the WordPress ecosphere. And yeah, I really love that CloudFest has given me and so many people that I am connected with the opportunity to actually bridge the gap between the business and the community parts of the WordPress industry. So that's what I felt would be something valuable that I could contribute to. And while I wasn't able to do that inside the established systems of the WordPress Foundation, I was very much able to do that in an alternative scenario. And that is what we are going to talk about a little bit more today. And what I'm excited to hear all your visions and experiences that you've been collecting over the past month.
Absolutely. We're definitely going to cover that. Before that, Raquel, I also want to give you a chance to introduce us to PressConf.
Yes, I'm Raquel, and I founded PressConf. Really, it was founded based out of a severe need for business in WordPress. I also very much come from the WordPress community. Most of my event experience actually came from organizing volunteering for WordCamps, flagship and local WordCamps for like 10 years doing that. But then I've also done other events and through WordPress actually discovered this is what I'm really, really good at. I have a whole story of why I sort of discovered who I am and why I am way backward in reverse because I did everything a little bit differently. I had kids first before I had a career first. So I very much will always have a special place for WordPress in my heart because of that. But it was not solving all of the needs of the community. And post-pandemic, it was really becoming prevalent that we needed a space for business again. And everything in my life was aligning that I was about to have a lot more time on my hands. And it was the perfect opportunity to resurrect what was Pressnomics, the Business of WordPress conference, to my conference, which became PressConf. And it is a small space for businesses, for business founders, C-suites, managers, those who are decision makers in the community. And it is small on purpose so that way we can have the opportunity to actually talk with each other and see each other and really fill in the gap for what, like Carole mentioned, we are missing in the WordPress space. But with the idea that this is yes and we are adding to the WordPress space and not taking away from. So that's a little bit of why I'm here and who I am.
Thank you very much. You both already mentioned WordCamps and community and business side of things. I think what we all are seeing is that there is a decline in both sponsors and attendees at the moment for the flagship WordCamps. And at the same time, the more business-related formats like PressConf and CloudFest are gaining more traction. Mark, from your perspective, what do you think is changing in the WordPress event landscape? Why do we see this decline in sponsors and attendees?
I mean, there are several reasons for that. One thing is, especially in Europe, economy is not doing too good. Yeah, so sponsorship budgets are getting smaller. Also, agencies budgets are tight, so traveling around Europe to hang out at a WordCamp for a couple of days with 2 or 3 developers or designers, that might be a lot of money for smaller agencies, etc. There is a lot of pressure on the revenue side for product companies, hosters, etc. So they think about where to spend that money best. And I mean, to be very honest, yeah, we go to WordCamps to meet people, to recruit people, to inform people. But in the end, we go to events to sell, to create leads. And this is easier when you're not at a WordCamp, because in the last couple of years, the WordCamps worked really well, but nowadays it's kind of too restrictive. And if you see a difference between WordCamp in Portugal and in Athens and then in Italy, and what happened last year in Basel, traction is getting slower and slower. And for a growing business like Greyd, in those cases, we decide different. So, for example, we are spending our budgets on other events, not just on WordCamps. And I know for a fact that more and more CEOs are thinking about that. So, there is a future for very specialized events, but not so much for very general and very restrictive events, especially if they are not business focused.
Maybe one thing that I've also noticed is that at WordCamps, you often kind of run into the same people. I mean, it's kind of nice because it feels a little bit like a class reunion. But at the same time, many of our agency customers who have been working with WordPress for all their existence, they don't go to WordCamp. Some of them, they don't even know that a WordCamp exists. So you already mentioned a couple of reasons why the attendance is getting down, but in general, why don't we see more agencies and decision makers attending WordCamps?
Is that a question to my direction?
It's to anybody.
Okay, but I will answer it. I think in the end, it's the marketing approach is kind of special. So a lot of people don't know that there are WordCamps. I mean, when we tried, or especially Jessica from our team and her team tried to organize WordCamp Germany a couple of years ago, you couldn't read about it. So there is basically no marketing. I mean, you think there's a lot of marketing because you are in the WordPress bubble and you see that everywhere, but the WordPress bubble is just the tip of the iceberg for the business. So nobody knows in the end. And to be very honest, I mean, we invited some of our partners to WordCamps, and for them, that was just not attractive. So it really is not a model. And don't get me wrong, a lot of agency owners or employees would love to travel to an event, but a WordCamp doesn't seem to be attractive enough. Yeah. At least at the moment.
I think that the hard part is the why behind WordCamps even began in the 2000s, which was essentially like a day camp to learn about WordPress. And over time, it grew and became something bigger, badder, and it transcended. And there is, I think, this desire from the automatic side to bring it back to its roots, to why WordCamp existed. But then you had these WordCamps, like even local ones like WordCamp Phoenix or even WordCamp Netherlands, who they really put on really not local events. They sort of superseded and started to answer those questions. I think the first time there was a business track, I could be wrong, someone could fact check me, was WordCamp Orange County or San Diego, 2013, something like that, 2014. So things just started to change. And then at the same time, WordPress was growing up. Companies that built that were built on WordPress were growing up, and you get to the point where you now need to make more money, like you're referring to, Mark, and now post pandemic, we're in this place where yeah, there just wasn't enough, and for someone to go think, why would I spend tens of thousands of dollars and me and my entire time to a WordCamp that charges 60 to 100 USC, and it doesn't attract other people that they want to see, and that's the struggle. At least that's stating the struggle.
I totally agree with what Raquel said. So the initial purpose of WordCamps has never been commercial back then, but then everything grew, and I think there's a moment in time where there should have been a distinguishment. Is a distinguishment between what is a community-driven event and also for the community and by the community, and what are or could be flagship events where organizers needed a lot more money to make them happen for 3,000 plus people in and especially post-pandemic, when costs for venues just exploded because they all had to make up for the years they couldn't have any income. And so I was on the organizing team for WordCamp Europe in Porto back then, on the sponsor team, and was one of the biggest in terms of attendees. And I alone raised 680,000 euros in terms of sponsor money. So we were a team of 6 to 7 people. So you can begin to imagine like what the costs are to organize such an event. And if the costs are so high, it also means that sponsorships become more and more expensive to make it run. And if we are talking about giving back, which was maybe justified in the early 2000s to 2010 or so, sponsorships, I don't know what they were, but I can say for local WordCamps in Germany, there were sponsorships for $1,000. You can talk, even as a small agency, about giving back to the project when you are paying $1,000, right? But if we're talking about investments, 75,000 euros or US dollars, you name it, and more, that's not giving back. You need a clear return on investment if you are investing that amount of money. And so there's a huge discrepancy between community-driven goals, learning, education, and investing 75,000 euros. So that is not giving back anymore. And I think that those conversations, they did not happen in a way they should have happened. And I think they're, it's just not the same purpose anymore when we're talking about huge flagship events. And that is why you are seeing attendee numbers and sponsor numbers decreasing, because you have alternatives now that are much better suited for your return on investment.
I think you're making a very strong point here, because there was actually something I also wanted to ask, because one thing that is also special about WordCamps is that they intentionally keep the ticket prices very low for the community reasons, which at the same time, as you just mentioned, it increases the dependency on sponsors, which is okay if, like you said, giving back is like the main ROI, or was like the main ROI, which is fine for smaller ticket sizes. But speaking about these bigger numbers, like you said, the businesses, they need to justify that amount of spending. They need a clear ROI, which is super difficult. I can speak from our own experience. If there kind of is the expectation not to sell, so people are they're actually kind of offended if you try to do some outreach before the event. It's very limited where you're allowed to speak about your product. The talks, they can't focus on use cases other than, for example, what we've seen in WordCamp US, what I thought personally was a good initiative with the showcase day, for example. But it really kind of feels like we have created, at least at these flagships events, we have created an environment where businesses are welcome to finance, but only if they don't behave like businesses too much. So I really understand that. And on the other hand, what do we also have to say? I mean, that's not really an issue in the WordPress space. So far, I haven't seen that so far, but there are events which are the exact opposite, where the talks feel more like product showcases only. And that also creates a vicious circle, because then if the content quality gets lower, then also there will be fewer senior attendees and there's less value for the sponsors. They question whether a sponsor or not. Raquel and Carole, you have both been in a situation of like being responsible also for the content of the events and for talk tracks. How do you find the right balance of giving both sponsors the opportunity to present their products and then also talk about use cases, but not make it too product focused and keep the topics interesting for the audience?
Carole, you get that one first.
I think that, so I have often been in a position where so the role in sales when you are organizing events is like on different fronts, right? So you're selling to sponsors, you're also selling to attendees, even if it is like the WordPress ticket, WordCamp ticket price. There we go. You are selling your show. And the sponsors that are the partners, I prefer to call it partners, honestly. So the partners are coming aboard. You also want to give them the opportunity to sell their services or their product in the best possible way. So I'm trying to actually educate my partners and to have a clearer understanding first myself, who are going to be my attendees, and to forward that information to the partner. So they have to understand what is the audience and what do they need. And then you have to build together with them a talk, a session, a workshop, whatever your format is, where they can showcase their expertise live on stage, because that will sell much more than present their numbers or how they've built something in a way that is not interesting for the audience. For example, if you have a hosting company explaining in the very essential little details how they're building their solution, and we had that conversation with Mark a lot, and you are focusing on an agency audience, they don't care. They want the solution to work because they are paying a ton of money for it to work. How they built it, they're not interested. So that's the thing. There's very often a discrepancy of what the partner think makes them sell their product or service and what the audience actually needs. And I think if you're a good event organizer, you understand your audience and you find a way to educate your partners to make them understand that it is in their most essential interest to provide value to the audience on stage first, and then they understand that you're the expert in what you're doing, and then they may be interested in working with you or buying your product or your service. So that I think there's a huge educational approach there. At least that's how I'm trying to do it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and I think that is a struggle. So I look at PressConf very almost like a hybrid. Like I think I've said if CloudFest and WordCamp had a baby, it's where I look at PressConf. So what I love about WordCamps is you can't buy a speaking engagement, although there was talks of that possibly changing. But that's been the case so far, is that you can't buy a speaker engagement. And I love that because then it forces people to actually come up with better content with their talks, to Carole's point. The hard part, though, is that WordCamps also very much encourage never before talks, given talks, which that's not a problem in of itself, because I very much am pro, like, give somebody a chance. I never thought they could have a chance. And I do think that WordCamps have established themselves as that. But as a business conference, you can't afford to have a first-time person go up there and talk. There might be an exception, and I'm willing to see what that could look like, but you just really can't. And so I know at other events, a sponsorship can come with a speaking engagement, and we had that talk this year with sponsors. It's like, well, you don't offer speaking engagements. I'm like, you damn straight I don't, because I can't. Like you've seen it all, where like a sponsor they sponsor, so they get a speaking engagement, and then they just bomb on stage, or they just like call it in, and you're just like, well, what the hell was that? Like, it doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't serve the sponsor that sponsored. It doesn't serve the attendees, which is the target market. So what we do differently, I guess, at PressConf is we hand select the speakers. That doesn't mean that a sponsor might not have a speaker. It still could mean that, but we put a heavy emphasis on our speakers on our talks at PressConf. And so that is, I guess, where I've taken the approach differently is the sessions. I actually want people to attend. So we have very few sessions, and I make those sessions very heavy. Like almost like every single one of them is like TED Talk level. And so if a sponsor gets to speak, like now everybody wins, because a sponsor is going to understand that the reason why their speaker is speaking is because of the speaker and the content, not because of the sponsor. And so that speaker is going to they better come with it. And then the audience now gets the benefit of the speaker who's up there, not because they're sponsoring, but because they have a message to share.
I want to say something about that selling sponsorships, because I'm a customer, and I also have to sell. I also have to sell software, and sometimes I have to wine and dine people. That is necessary, or at least I have to talk to them a little, be interesting, telling them that I need them, etc. And to be very honest, when I talk to the both of you about the conference, and Carole, we now do that every year. We have a conversation. You tell me what the plan is. You tell me what's going on. You tell me who's already on board, how I could help, what could be interesting for me, which sponsorship could be interesting for me. Is there a party or whatsoever? So you wine and dine me. It is interesting. I want to be part of that. And at the moment, I'm writing and talking a lot about events, as you know, and obviously, then I get emails. And those are not wining and dining me. Those are like, here, buy it, or even worse, apply. And this goes out to all the sellers of sponsorships. I'm not applying. I'm bringing the money. I'm investing. We talked about investment. We talked about paying, etc. So what I absolutely hate is apply for that. I mean, that doesn't make sense at all. And I want to be part of it. What I don't want is here. Take the form, write something into it, commit to whatever rules. I don't like that. And as we are spending a lot on these events in comparison to our revenue, and I travel to all of them, I have to feel comfortable there. So I don't want to go to events that I don't like. And if I see these emails, I just don't answer, or ask myself, who told you to do that? Who told you to try to get a sponsor that way? That doesn't work at all. I mean, we are a small company. We are a very small company in WordPress, but still, I don't want to be treated like that, especially if I bring a lot of money, if I have to send people around the globe, etc., etc. So to all those people who want to create an event or to have to sell sponsorships, please offer something that is viable. I want to buy it. I want to feel good when I buy it. And that is not happening at all. That is absolutely not happening at all.
Carole? I think what you both said makes it also important to maybe distinguish between partners and sponsors in some way, or at the very least, like set expectations straight. Because I think Raquel is a little bit in between. Like what you just said, like with WordCamps or CloudFest, everybody
Had a baby.
So maybe we need new names for the partner sponsors, whatever. But I feel like if you go to the old fashioned WordCamps, you are meant to be a sponsor, right? So that's like few bucks and you give back and whatever. And I cannot understand, from what the angle is, and it is not a real partnership. CloudFest, it is a real partnership, which goes both ways. So if Mark and I, if we're signing a contract for CloudFest, we both have obligations. We both have benefits that we're expecting, and we're working together. And I think that we can say we did that for the past years. Like we were both working towards a goal that is benefiting the organizer, and the partner. I think with PressConf is the same. So you're looking to find a way for Greyd and obviously also the attendees to benefit. And that you're setting the expectations straight as well. And I think that is, again, what WordCamps have been missing when they started growing. So coming from hey, can you please help us organize events so the community can learn? And thank you for doing that. And giving us $500 for a one-day event where the community can learn, to give us 75,000 for an event, that is a huge gap. And the expectations and obligations have never been set very differently from the start of those events. And that's why I like to make a difference between a sponsorship and a partnership.
Yeah. And what also really went well this year at WordPress Business and Agency Summit, the presentations, the quality of presentation is really getting better and better and better. And this is what I like about PressConf. I mean, Carole, you should really attend PressConf.
I want to. I was so, oh my God, I had so much FOMO this year. Like, honestly, like I was so jelly.
The presentations are the quality of the presentations, the things that you can learn in a presentation like that. I mean, people like Ben Gabler, Brent Weaver, Katie Keith, wonderful. Yeah. So even CEOs and other people can learn a lot because everyone treats his company absolutely different, and the quality is great. At other events, it's just not, to be very honest. Yeah. Some people don't belong on the stage. Yeah. As simple as that. And for others, they should practice that, because that is performance and that is entertaining. And from my point of view, that should be different. And I see that at PressConf. Yeah, the last 2 years, the presentations, I mean, awesome. Yeah. And the same thing is happening as far as I see it at WP Business and Agency Day. And that helps a lot, because a lot of people told me, yeah, this is something I can use. This is something I can do. I can learn from that, etc., etc. Yeah, and it's all business driven. And that was wonderful.
One question I wanted to ask, because we were talking a lot about like the expectations and what you can offer to sponsors. I think one challenge that every event organizer is that usually you need the sponsors first, sometimes even before the agenda or even the concept can be finalized. And I take it this is a huge challenge. So I would love to hear from Raquel and Carole how you deal with that. How do you talk and sell your event to sponsors when maybe not everything is finalized yet?
Not easy. For me, this is my business. PressConf is under my business, Wonderland Curious, under that umbrella, and so it's all on me. I think that a huge step up, if not a few steps up, going into this, was that I had already built up clout in the WordPress community, and my target market was WordPress, business of WordPress. And I'd already done so much groundwork ahead of time to let everyone know, hey, I'm bringing Pressnomics back, and did a lot. So then when the announcement came, which was the Monday of WordCamp US 2024, it was the Monday before all that, like people already knew and were ready to go. And one thing really cool about version 1 was that it really was just a lot of podcasts, a lot of people that knew me, and launching the sponsorship program. And it was, something that WordPress had been missing so much that at the beginning, the sponsors just came in. I barely had to do much. This year was not that way. This year was like version 2. Coincidentally, 2026 became the year that every sponsor ever decided that we're not sponsoring events anymore. And, so it was just a lot harder. And so really what we had to do differently this year was make sure that we proved, and obviously we had the analytics from last year to send to all the sponsors, but even more so this year was increasing the C-suites and the founders that came. So we did a lot of outreach to C-suites and founders to see what it would take to get them to come to PressConf. And then that was what really was able to sell our sponsorships this year.
I can imagine that it's even more difficult for an event like PressConf, where the main focus is not like lead generation, but it's really more the networking and being in the room together with all these other C-level people from the industry. So I can imagine that puts it even more difficult, because it's kind of difficult to put that into numbers, right?
Yeah, and that's the hard part, is targeting sponsors at the same time targeting attendees, like Carole was talking about earlier. Like, when I very much look at PressConf as my own personal love letter to the community and the to the web, to technology. And I big time feel like I want everyone to grow. Personally, I want them to be inspired by these talks, because I'll fight anybody. We will do better in our businesses when we are personally fulfilled, when our cups are filled. And I can't sell that, though. I can't tell a sponsor, you're all going to feel good after you're done. You know what I mean? Like, so
But it's the
there's
truth.
yes and it 100%. But and then once you experience it, then you want to come back, because there's brand new sponsors this year, and afterward they came up to me, like hosting companies, and they're like, you could just see their brain was like, what just happened? And I'm like, yes, and it's not because for me, I think this is the struggle with me, is that I'm not a dollar signs girl, but because I really believe that an event like this could change the world. And so that's what I want to see. I want to see people hold on, or almost in a way like sneak it in, and but you can't. It has to be a sneak. It can't be the big thing. The big thing has, at the end of the day, to be business, to be networking, to be that when they get there, they are gonna be rubbing shoulders with other CEOs, with other founders, and that there's potential for magic. So yes, no really lead gen, but partnership potentials, and definitely some maybe acqui-hires even, but even more so collaboration. And even more so, to me, I believe, trusted relationships. Now that you have like some C-suites that now have a friend they could go to and vent to each other, we're going to make everything better. We're going to make our communities better. We're going to make our technologies better, because we have trusted relationships. It's really hard to find trusted relationships today. And so I will do what it takes. I will make it as business as possible to get us to be able to have those. So
Thank you, ma'am.
I actually think I have a very similar approach. Like, I am trying with everything I'm doing to make it clear to my partner in the conversation that everything is about trust. And I think that also that I do have a reputation that I am being very honest, and also when I am building a partnership, I want a partnership. So it's not, the goal is not to have it for this specific contract. So if I'm working on a partnership, I want the partner to be there because I believe the partner's investment and the partner's presence at the event will be successful, so that the next year when I call them or when I email them, that they will have been waiting for it. And like, of course I'm going to come back because I loved it. And you cannot do that if you are selling partners something they don't need. So I also had conversations like this is maybe even more true, or yeah, at least I've had more experience when it comes to that with the hackathon, because CloudFest Hackathon isn't the right fit for every company out there that is involved in CloudFest. And sometimes they heard about a hackathon and its success, and they get redirected towards me via the CloudFest sales team, and then I go into a call with them, and I'm trying to find out, what do you need, what do you want, and then I'm like, after 10 minutes, I know already it's not the right fit for them. Why would I sell it to them? So I want to, and then maybe next year there's another opportunity, like the WP Business and Agency Summit, and then I'm like, hey, we had a conversation, remember, about the hackathon, and it wasn't the right fit for you, but I have something even better for you this year or next year. And so I think this is very important to me for everything that I'm doing, because if this is about working with an event or working as a project manager for a company in this industry, I am only of value for the client that I'm working with if my personal brand is strong. And I would never do anything to harm my personal brand for a gig that is limited in times, and that most importantly includes selling stuff to partners that they don't need or wouldn't benefit from. And I think that is how I am approaching sales, and it has proven me incredibly successful, because I haven't been in a situation where I have been struggling finding partners or sponsors yet. And I was expecting that for this edition of CloudFest, to be honest, because there have been so many companies in this industry struggling and firing people and going smaller with investments. So I was prepared to experience that, but I didn't. And I feel incredibly grateful, but also incredibly proud that I didn't have to deal with that. And so it also, so I also had to learn over time that I can say that I'm proud of myself. So
Yeah.
I think I did a good job leading towards the crisis, so that I didn't have to struggle with finding partners.
I think one thing that we haven't mentioned so far that both of your event formats have in common is that they are both built around a very clearly defined target group and ICP. Mark, this is something that you often advocate for when it comes to product companies, that it is really key that you really understand your target group and your ICPs. So is audience definition, from your point of view, also key to making sponsorships and events in general work?
I mean, everyone is not a strategy, as we all know. And I'm sponsoring the hackathon, and I'm also hanging around at PressConf. Totally different events. I like them both because they both have a target group. Yeah, it's not that I don't want to hang around at WordCamps because they are all the developers and people who don't think like me because I'm a business guy. No, that's not the reason. The thing is, I don't know how to behave there. Yeah, at the hackathon, I have my team. I have Jessica, Annemieke, etc., and I get that vibe, and that's very interesting. And I can talk to very different people. And at PressConf, this is basically the C-suite. This is the people I talk to all day. And for me, it is very, very important that I know what's going on, that I know who I can talk to or I need to talk to, how I prepare for that, what the vibe would be, etc. Because if you have a clear ICP, everybody knows what's going on. We talked a lot about trust, especially at PressConf, you know what's going on, what happens there stays there. So you talk very openly. The things that have been presented are so not public. You shouldn't talk about them in public, but it's possible because the target group, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody has trust in each other, and everybody knows the rules. And you're both absolutely right. You're both brands. I know what I'm getting when I talk to Carole or Raquel. And that's a fine thing. I know what they deliver. I know what they plan. And this is something that I can buy. And this is a defined ICP, a defined target group. And I can easily check, okay, I'm part of that target group. That's good for me. I should go there. And not just for business reasons. Sometimes I just want to hang around. But a product has to be buyable. And a sponsorship is a product. An event attendance is a product. And downloading something is a product too. And also a presentation on stage is a product. And that's all buyable. And that's very important. I can do that very easy. I absolutely know that I will join PressConf next year if it's in a sunny state. And I absolutely know that I will join CloudFest and Hackathon next year. But I'm not so sure what else I want to join because I just don't know what's going on.
And if I may, I just wanted to add a little something, because I don't want to give anyone the impression that I personally wouldn't like WordCamps or whatsoever. And there's one thing that is really dear to my heart that I want to mention, is that there was a development in the right direction that I saw. And it was basically, I saw it, and some of you mentioned it already. With I think it was you, Sandra, when you said Showcase Day in Portland. So the first WordCamp US in Portland, not the second, but the first. And I had a feeling when I was there, like the whole thing, and especially comparing to the other WordCamps in the other WordCamp USs that I have visited, that it was going into the right direction. And to me, it was the best WordCamp US I have attended until then. And I really thought the organizers were doing a fantastic job. Unfortunately, at the very last moments of the conference, it all got overshadowed by something else. And I felt really sorry for the organizers who did a fantastic job. And I mean, Raquel and I, at least we know what it is when you're pouring your heart into an event. And I cannot even begin to fathom and imagine how it must have felt seeing all that, overshadowed and destroyed in the very last hour. But I loved the Showcase Day. I also loved that they were giving sponsors much more opportunities to present what they were doing. I saw in the same year WordCamp Asia going a little above and beyond, like giving sponsors the opportunities and like, I don't know what they called it, but before the closing remarks, all the sponsors from a certain level, they could come on stage and they got 5 minutes to pitch what they were doing or selling to the audience. And some of them were really doing a fantastic job. Like I remember Devin from Bluehouse, like smashing a rap. Like I was like, oh my God, like this is absolutely hilarious. And it was so much fun. So that was so great to see. So there was a movement. And yeah, I will be at WordCamp Europe next month, and I am looking forward to it because I love hanging out with the people. I'm not going there for any business reasons myself. I'm really just going there because I'm combining it with a road trip and I'm going to have fun with my friends. And I'm really looking forward to seeing if I can find a little bit of that spirit back, because there's enough room for all of us, right? I would love to see the flagship events turning into something a little bit more commercial business oriented, to actually give everyone inside the WordPress ecosphere the opportunity to connect with the business world, because not everyone can come to CloudFest, not everyone will be able to attend PressConf. And you know, WordPress has the mission to democratize publishing, and I think event organizers should have the freedom to democratize opportunities. And if you are being left out from the business conversations because you cannot show up at the right places, then this isn't creating equal opportunities. And I think that the WordPress Foundation and the WordPress community should a little bit more think in that direction. So that was my many cents about this.
Here.
No, I have to fully agree, because I was so happy when I first read about the Showcase Day, because from my point of view, it's a perfect combination of having a possibility, a stage for example, sponsors, but not only, but for companies to show what is possible with WordPress and with their products and with their services. And at the same time, these are not product demos, these are showcases. So it also has the learning effect, which is a main part of WordCamps. So people can learn what is actually possible with WordPress and how to do that. So I would love to see that going on and moving forward, maybe also at the WordCamp Europe, for example. One thing I wanted to ask you, because Raquel, you mentioned before that you did a lot of outreach for the sponsors. I know for a fact, Carole, that you also did a lot of outreach, but not only to sponsors, but you also personally, or like not you in person, but the event personally invited agencies to come there, because I think one of the goals of the WordPress Agency Summit was to really have agencies attend. This is a new event format, so can you share a little bit about what the experience have been? Do you think it is a good way to make sure that you not only market the events, but you also personally invite the people that you want to have at such an event?
Yeah, I believe that we were one of very few conferences that were actually doing that. So, and I think it makes a huge difference if you are talking to someone that can actually show their passion they're putting into the event and what the actual goals are, and you're not seeing it in an email that nowadays 80% or 90% are written by AI, and you don't have the feeling that you are personally targeted. I think it makes a huge difference. And then we had partners aboard, and you were part of it, the team Greyd, to reach out to agencies that have maybe never heard of CloudFest before, that maybe have heard of it but never considered actually coming. And so we set our goals pretty high. Like we wanted to increase attendancy from, I think we were at 300, 400 when the event was formally called the WP Day, and we wanted to grow it to 800, and we wanted half of it to be agencies. And so we couldn't have done that without going these new routes and reaching out to them personally and explaining to them why should you be there and what is the advantage, and adding a VIP ticket, and making sure that they understand that it is a different format. And that was super valuable. And we, in the end, so I got to the numbers. We had, I think it was 1,155 attendees. So it was crazy. Like, we just had more than triple the attendees we had with the WP Day. And we had agency attendees, we had hosters, we had software as a service, we had cybersecurity companies. So we had so many different actors that are that are able to do business or improve each other's businesses in such an interesting way. And so there's already a ton that we achieved at first attempt, but also there's a ton we learned and we heard and that we are still collecting in terms of feedback, where my mind is already going crazy with all the ideas on how we could improve this, because this was our first attempt, right? And it was really successful, but there's still so much more we can build on it. And I'm really curious to where we can bring this new, or maybe next year not new, but still like this edition part of CloudFest, and what we can grow it into. And I think it is also important that you will have a clear vision of where do you want to head, because CloudFest gives you all the opportunities, right? But CloudFest is also about bigger, better, more. So while I think that I would enjoy PressConf so much because of the intimate atmosphere, that is never what CloudFest is going to be. While I would love that as an attendee personally.
She's applying for a sponsored ticket, Raquel.
I heard that too.
That is what makes it so interesting, right? I would personally, I would love to especially after CloudFest, like to be at a conference that is much more intimate. And if you're looking for that will never be CloudFest. And if you're looking to come back with 5,000 leads, that's never going to be PressConf. And if you're looking to invest 75,000 euros somewhere and have a huge return on investment, that's never going to be a WordCamp flagship event. So I think there's so much room for all of us. And you know what I love about this group here? We are so intertwined today as we are speaking. As Raquel was an MC at CloudFest and attending CloudFest. Mark is now part of the advisory board for CloudFest US. I will hopefully be at PressConf next year. So there's so much that we are doing together, and where we can learn from each other, where we can improve what we're doing. And and that is actually the spirit of WordPress, where it's not all about competition. It's about like growing together. And that is also true for events. That's at least the way I feel.
Yeah.
And Raquel, I also would love to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah.
Well, to Carole's point, it's ironic because like I am an extrovert. I love big crowds. I love being on stage and love CloudFest. And that's just not the product I created. It just makes me laugh. And Aaron Campbell told me that this most recent PressConf said that it's an introvert's dream. because it's small and you don't get overwhelmed. And I'm like, me, the extrovert of extroverts, I created the introvert's dream. That is so funny to me.
You got the event with the alphas of the alphas, and he thinks that it's for introverted people. Okay.
He probably feels comfy around that, but yeah, okay. I know. But yeah, I think that it was different this year. Like, part of it, I think, is just genuinely caring. And so for me, when I targeted agencies, because I really, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that agencies, a lot of them, especially who were attracted to WordPress, a lot of them are, in a sense, mom and pops. A lot of them are like older Xers, even in age, and maybe even boomers. And I don't mean to be ageist, but just when you get that persona and where we're going with AI, and it's moving so fast, I can't think of a time ever when except for maybe a newborn baby, we get that analogy of the baby's growing right before your eyes. That's how AI is moving. It's moving so incredibly fast. And if we don't do something about it as agencies, we're going to die. And so that was sort of my message this year when we targeted agencies. I mean, PressConf, the general attendee very much is agencies, and also product companies, aside from the C-suites, and founders of these companies. But we really wanted to see agencies come and grow and learn, because they can. I absolutely believe agencies can be successful and will still be relevant, because everyone's afraid that they won't be anymore. But they can't if they don't make choices. And so that was one of the big reasons I had for Reach Out this year, was genuine care and wanting to see people survive with where we're going.
And I have to say, I really, really like the way we're going right now. What you're saying, that there really is a place. It's not do we need WordCamps or these other events. It's really like there really is the place for all three of them. And I think that was maybe one of the biggest issues, I think, at least for WordCamps, is that since there weren't so many alternatives, the expectation was kind of, it had to be the event that serves everybody, and it serves the commercial goals and the community goals and all that. And maybe some part of that is not just, at least not 100% compatible. And it's just not fair to expect one event to cater all needs of everybody in the community. So I really love that we now have different formats like PressConf and CloudFest, like you mentioned. These are also very, very, they are both they're more business focused, but they are also very different events. And there's a place for all of them. At least that's what I see.
Yeah, from the attendance possibly, but from sponsorship involvement, I think there will be a lot of competition in the future, because budgets are tight, and both of you are very successful in managing these events, and you were both able to create a brand. But a lot of new events are coming up. I hear a lot about new events, new planned events everywhere in the world, but we all compete for the same sponsors. We're not competing for the same audience, because there are agencies in Europe and there are agencies in Germany or in the US, and only the large agencies are traveling from continent to continent. But on a sponsorship level, I think this will be hard. And in the end, what I also foresee is that speakers is going to be hard, because in the past, speakers was about not getting money and applying for a WordCamp. But in the future, the best speakers, they will be hard to get in the future, especially if you want to have the C-levels. And at a PressConf, you have those people, and they don't have a lot of time, so they can't dance on every wedding, as we say in Germany. So from a sponsorship perspective, I don't think it's too easy to get into your event. You have to be, and what I see in WordPress is you have to do that early. I mean, in the end, the big enterprise is planning their budgets at the end of this year for the next year. And then in February, somebody contacts me and asks me, can you sponsor that event in April? Hey, come on, can you please do your job? I already said yes to 3 or 4 companies. So
I think that is, so what you said is I can 100% relate to that as a company and how you're planning a budget. But as an event organizer, there's like this other side of it where we mentioned it before. Like sometimes you can only start selling when you know what to sell. And so there's two sides to it. And I think that's like, yeah, there has to be a balance. But yeah, if you are too late and if the budget has already been spent, then you're too late and the budget has already been spent. So either you change on how you approach this specific potential sponsor next year, or you don't. So that's completely understandable. I am not sure if we are saying with PressConf, CloudFest, and WordCamps, to have some examples within the WordPress industry, I'm not sure if they are going to cannibalize each other. I am much more worried about other industry events that are maybe popping up, like around AI, where agencies specifically, that's more from the attendee side of things, but they will have much better conferences when they want to learn something and improve what they're doing and their services and products, and be much better conferences than all three of them, I'm afraid. And from the partnership sponsorship side of things, probably as well. So I'm seeing a lot of initiatives already popping up, like on the smaller scale within WordPress. So for an example, like within Germany, there's a hosting company which I'm also connected with. I think I mentioned already to you, Mark, like HostPress. They're organizing their own business event in September. They asked me if I could come aboard and moderate it. So I really applaud this like smaller initiatives, but there will be much bigger ones as well. And they will be coming outside the targeted industry, and they will be interesting and true for everyone, not just the WordPress industry. And I think that is a much bigger threat when you talk about competing for investment, for partnerships and sponsorships.
Okay.
Just even in our industry, people are breaking away from WordCamps and having some conf, CMM conf at all, a CMS conf. And then there's other independent events like Checkout Summit et al. And at the end of the day, all are welcome, but also at the end of the day, we're going to get event fatigue, and so I think about that a lot. I'm like, okay, what does this mean? Because I'm here to stay, one, and also like my why, my why is so solid, and I will challenge everybody there to make sure you know what your why is, because if you don't, then you're going to waste your own time and your own money, and that's just my own personal challenge. But to your point too about outside of that, is these companies come with a lot more money as well, and they could create any event that they want and just throw their own money at it. And so we're entering into a time where I think, just also because of AI, like I'm very aware of how much we're going to desire in person more and more, but I'm not the only one who's aware of that. A lot of people are aware of that, and being, getting to the blue waters first is important. But at the same time, if I'm not a big enough shark, then I could get eaten myself. So, and I'm not a shark. I don't even like to think of myself that way. But it is something we can't ignore. We have to be aware of.
And what would plans look like? So if both of you know that, I know the next iteration of your events are far away, but we want to know how are you guys going to react on that? How are you going to sharpen your brand, your ICP, etc.? What do the plans look like?
For me personally, I'm expanding. So there's rumor. I keep telling everyone there's rumor. PressConf Europe coming up soon.
Heard that for the first time.
Why do I not believe you?
Yeah. And he's German. He could act. Wow. Okay. and then the other part is for me is to expand past WordPress. Like I said at the beginning, WordPress will always be near and dear to my heart, but it's not my only friend. So seeing where that's just the beginning of seeing where that goes. So that's the plan so far. Very broad plan.
We're looking forward to seeing.
I like that.
sounds like I will have 2 opportunities to finally attend PressConf
Yes.
for a year. So I won't have any excuse anymore.
No.
Carole, no, you now also had like a couple of weeks of break after the big CloudFest event. So what are you working on at the moment?
Oh, at the moment, I am still enjoying some nice recovery week. I really enjoy it. But I will have actually, so tomorrow, the day after the recording of this podcast, at least, I will have some conversations with the CloudFest team again. So there's some ideas of maybe increasing my work within CloudFest. But other than that, I am open to anything events related, because that's where my passion lies as well. And I'm not really looking into like working with companies that are not into event organization at the moment. This is what I did previously, and I just like I want to focus more on events in the future. So that's what I'm doing. And so my plan is to have some negotiations over the next weeks, and then start in August, September with what's next. So I'm enjoying a well-deserved longer break.
I was just about to say it was well deserved.
But you need to stop that now, okay?
Is that an offer?
No, but what I can tell everybody is, if you want to plan an event, you need people like Carole or Raquel, because this is a totally different business. This is a network business. This is a brand business. You can't just have an event just because you want to have it. You need to do it because you are that person. Yeah. So if anybody's interested in planning an event, please contact both of them. They're both very capable. Raquel, it's not just the events that you do with your company. There are other things that you are organizing. Tell us about these things too, please.
The 3 parts to Wonderland Curious are tech events, group travel, and why am I losing my mind now? Sancho parties. So I'm for hire for any sort of event that maybe a company wants to do, but they don't have an events team, and they could contract that. And then group travel. So there's also a plan for a getaway, a retreat. At this point, to Iceland. That is also, and this is yes, Carole. Yes, I've talked with Mendel. Like
It's cold.
It's
cold in Iceland.
She knows. Yes, I know, but but it's
also
so
nice.
much fun. Yes. I mean, a lot of this my company stemmed from doing that event with Mendel in 2018. And that was part of the seed that planted for me to start my own business again.
Oh, cool.
But I plan to do that maybe 2 times a year. And that is just strictly to hang out with all of us and unplug. And I call those the shower moments, when you're in the shower. Same reason we have Wonder Day at PressConf, that last day where we just have fun. It's like, I love those moments where we could just be with ourselves and nature. I love grounding in nature, because we could come up with some of the most amazing ideas, and we all need that. And sometimes we need to be forced into it. And I am very much that sort of person. So that is coming up. And then at events like CloudFest or like a flagship WordCamp, I call them Sancho parties. In Spanish, Sancho means boy on the side. So it's a side party. And anytime a company, especially ones that don't have big events teams, they want to have I did one for
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's one to ask, right?
Really?
Yeah. I didn't know there was called a Sancho party in your offer. This is so interesting. I have all connected the dots.
No, this is really, to be honest, this is really helpful, because I mean, from Munich to Portland, that's a bit, and with a small team, you're not able to prepare a party on another continent. That's just too much. I mean, obviously you can reserve some tables at the restaurant, etc. But to have a party and want to have it nice, you need help. Yeah. And that was very helpful. And as far as I can remember, this was a really good party.
I wouldn't even limit it to small teams. I mean, don't underestimate how much it takes to organize a good event. I would have hired help for that, even if the team would have been much bigger, because I'm from the event industry myself, and I know how much work is in there and how much it takes, and also not just like time and resources to spend there, but like Mark said before, you need to have this event person who just lives this event part, and that you can't replace that by just putting some people of your company and tell them, can you arrange an event? It doesn't work like that.
And somebody loves it too. It just creates such magic at the event itself. So yeah,
it sounds like wonderful offers. Like, I didn't know the other two parts of it until now, and I think those are very smart and very, very, very good additions. And I hope that a lot of people are listening to this podcast, because side events are, especially when it comes to WordCamps, are so important, because that's the only place where you can actually discuss business, and you better make sure that you have an awesome side event. So if you're listening to this, talk to people who know what they're doing, Raquel. And I couldn't be more excited to hear that you want to start organizing these group travels, because for the audience that doesn't know, like Raquel and I, we both participated in such a group travel within the nerd techie WordPress industry, but in different years, right?
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it so much. And I think nowadays, with everything that is going on in our industry, in society, and everything evolves at lightning speed. So when I did this trip, we were already in living in a society where you needed to perform, and now you still need to perform because everything is in crisis. So you need to perform more, and you need to perform faster, and you need to compete with AI, and it has become 10 times more important than it already was when I did that trip. And I think that you're going to be incredibly successful with that, because I bet there's a ton of people out there in our industry that would jump aboard immediately should they have the resources to do so.
I hope so.
Good luck with that.
So, thank you,
guys. We could go on for at least another hour. I really enjoyed this conversation, but we are already over an hour, so I think it's a good time to wrap up. I think these were also great closing remarks, so I won't add a lot to that other than saying thank you very much to the three of you for taking the time and being into this conversation. I'm very much looking forward to the events in the future. I think the next one is right around the corner with WordCamp Europe. We probably meet each other there, and also meet a lot of people who are listening and watching today. So very much looking forward to that. Raquel, Mark, and Carole, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, and I also want to say thank you. I'm not attending too often in these great conversations, but I wanted to have both of you on great conversations because you do a great job, and that is very, very important for our industry. And so thank you from my side as well.
Thank you for having us.
Bye. Thank you.